Today's episode is sponsored by Ellie, Ellii.
Ellie is one of the world's leading content libraries for English language teachers, with thousands of ready-made lessons and flashcards and hundreds of videos that you can use to complement your own curriculum or use as your main source of materials.
Ellie is run by a team of former English teachers, dedicated to creating content that engages your language learners.
If you're an independent teacher or paying for your materials out of pocket, we invite you to use our podcast's exclusive discount code Think-Aloud to save 15% off your first membership term. That's THINKALOUD.
And if you're an administrator looking to buy for your whole program, just reach out to the fine folks at Ellie to inquire about a 2-month free trial to test it out for your organization. And don't forget to mention who sent you, your friends at the Teacher Think Aloud podcast.
Head to ellie.com today. That's ELLII.com.
Hello, and welcome to the Teacher Think Aloud podcast, a podcast for reflective practice for teachers of English around the world. I'm your co-host, Shé.
And I'm Anna.
And today, we're back with another career exploration conversation. This time, we're thinking about how skills from teaching English, or really teaching anything, can be useful in transitioning into a career in instructional design, or L&D, learning and development.
I'm really excited for today's conversation, as this is actually a journey I've been on for the last, 5 years?
I don't know.
Or so.
I believe you.
Something like that. And we're talking with an individual who was incredibly helpful for me in moving into this L&D space, Sharon Tjaden-Burkes.
Let's meet her and learn a bit about her career trajectory.
My name is Sharon Tjaden-Burkes, pronouns she, her. I am a senior instructional designer for Sinclair Community College in their e-learning division. I actually started as a media designer in 2019, before the pandemic, and transitioned into an instructional designer role in 2023. Now I am in the senior role, which means more high-profile, complicated projects and more of them. I speak at conferences, hold workshops, and take more of a leadership role. Before that, I taught ESL for 13 years, always in higher education settings, mostly in intensive English programs. One was for public university, one was for private university. So I've been in both kinds of institutions. I did enjoy the work. Got paid so little. And it took me forever to get a full-time job. I was an adjunct for the first 5 years of my career, which if you adjunct, is its own kind of depressing soul suck, where you just feel like you pour everything into what you do, all of your heart, and you just kind of wish upon a star that someday somebody will reward you with something like a salary that can actually support you. That part of it was disheartening, but the part that kept me coming back was what I would learn from my students, how my world opened because they were inside of it and because they were showing me other ways of seeing the world that I would not even imagine. It is so true that you always learn more than you are teaching your students, and that was what I walked away with after 13 years. I don't think of it as a mistake. It helped me grow so much.
That was a big piece of my decision to move out of adjuncting and into instructional design, the instability and emotional toll.
Yeah. I remember when we met and you were running all over Manhattan. I was running all over Manhattan too. We were working in different universities and doing different gigs while adjuncting, all trying to carve out a full-time schedule for ourselves.
Yeah, that was a crazy period of time. It was definitely stressful and made me crave having one job and the sense of security that comes with that.
Absolutely. I think we all find ourselves in education because we care about people, right? About our students, and we feel like we learn so much from them, yes. But we do need to think about our well-being, mental, physical, financial.
That's so true. But it can take a long time to get to that place where you decide to make a change. I mentioned earlier that Sharon was a great resource for me in my transition into instructional design in the way of the idea networking sessions she offers on a monthly basis.
That's right. Those are still ongoing, aren't they? Let's hear from Sharon about how she got that idea.
Get it?
Back in 2020, I was supposed to speak at TESOL 2020. We went into shutdown when that conference was supposed to happen, and my presentation went virtual. The presentation was about transitioning into ID because I just recently made that transition before that conference happened. And I thought, well, I always liked presenting at TESOL. So I was like, well, I don't want to leave the field yet, even though I'm kind of in this new industry. What can I share with the community? The outpouring that I had from participants at this virtual conference, like people were emailing me, messaging me on LinkedIn, like, can I pick your brain? I really want to know more. I just said, okay, I'll open a Zoom room. It was August 2020. Just come. And the response was incredible. And I said, well, there's a lot of interest this month, so I'll just do it next month. And then it just became a monthly thing and people kept coming. I've been doing it every month since August 2020. Each session, I've had 2 to 3 guest speakers and usually somewhere between 15 and 30 participants. So it's a lot of people. And that sustained interest over almost 5 years. So as long as there's still interest in people coming and there's still people that are willing to come on, I never pay anybody. I'm not paid. This is something where people share their time because it's the nice thing to do for other people. It's a way to give back and pay it forward. And it's amazing when you get that evidence that there is such goodness in the world. And on a really hard day, at the end of the day, I don't want to do this networking thing. I always feel better after I do it. I feel like that was time well spent. Never gotten me a job, but it has helped many people. I'll continue to do it until there's no interest anymore.
Yeah.
Like Anna, right? You attended one of her sessions and were inspired by her trajectory, if I remember correctly, right?
I attended a couple actually, because what's really great about the guest speakers is you get a lot of perspectives on different areas of instructional design and L&D and how to transition as an English language teacher. It's very geared towards teachers in general, but specifically a lot of English language teachers because of your background, Sharon. It got my wheels spinning and prompted my transition into L&D, which is what I do now. Thank you for that.
I love how organically these sessions came about. Sharon knew that sharing her experience would help other TESOLers. And this is a great example of someone finding the silver lining in the pandemic.
Absolutely. You and I have talked a lot about how we gained so many wonderful skills during the move to online instruction and learning during the pandemic. And the emergence of strong online communities is an important holdover from that time, I think.
Yeah. And it just goes to show the value of sharing with others, right?
Yeah.
You never know what you might have to offer your peers. I always say that as teachers, we are our own best resources.
I agree. Yeah.
Well, let's hear more about Sharon's journey.
Let's jump back now into your personal history and what led you to the transition from ELT to instructional design.
The primary reason was my life was unsustainable. I had 2 little kids, a baby and a preschooler, and I had the same workload. I thought this workload was awful when I was single. It was awful when I was married. Now I have little people to take care of when I go home, and I don't have that time anymore for grading papers or lesson planning, and I couldn't anymore, and the system wasn't changing, so I had to be the one to change. The other thing, besides the unsustainability of my career, was just I didn't really feel like I had a lot of room to grow. It was like, that's it. You're a teacher. There was no promotion, no opportunity for advancement. I didn't have a lot of support from administrators to publish or present. It was a real lack of support. So I thought, I am bored. And I teach the same stuff all the time. I can't grow. What am I doing? I have one life to live. I've got to figure this out.
This part of the conversation really resonated with me, Shé. In addition to Sharon's wish that she would be rewarded financially for a job well done, as she mentioned earlier, she also highlighted that it felt like she had reached the ceiling for her professional development as an adjunct, which I totally relate to.
I've absolutely been there too. I remember a few years ago, I got out my chart paper, the big pieces of chart paper, and I slapped it up on the wall in my office, and I started thinking about other paths that I might go down besides adjuncting.
Yeah, I had that too.
Yeah, I love those big pieces of chart paper, but
Yeah.
it just wasn't feeling as good as it did 12 years ago, right? I think my annotation next to continue adjuncting was, I'm bored. So, yeah, I think this idea of reaching your ceiling is a very real thing for adjuncts.
So it didn't happen all at once. It wasn't like I woke up one day and was like, well, I can't do this anymore. It was like,
Yeah.
an accumulation of factors that led me to being like, this life is unsustainable. I need to start making plans for what to do. The very first thing I did, I was frustrated one day at work and I just put into Glassdoor education jobs. I found something called Instructional Designer. It's like, what is that? And then I read it and I was like, that seems a whole lot easier than what I'm doing. You just like design the stuff and then you just walk away. That can't be a job. But, it was. There was also learning consultant, training specialist, e-learning developer. I spent time looking at those jobs, how they were described, what skills you needed, the competencies that they wanted in a person. And then I started thinking about taking a tally of like, okay, well, what about me? Do I have some of those things? Video editing was my hobby. Before trying to get out of education, I was trying not to be bored. I started tinkering in video editing. My ex-husband and I started a YouTube channel for cooking. And that was where I really started to hone those skills in video editing. I thought, okay, what else can I do? That seems really interesting and time flies when I'm doing that. I looked into upskilling, and in my job that I was working at the time, I could get free tuition for graduate certificate. Use that to get technology enhanced learning graduate certificate. It wasn't a degree, but a certificate. And that worked for me. I am a tinkerer, but when it comes to wanting to develop the skills for something, I like a credentialing program, not because I need it to show someone else, but it holds me accountable to getting stuff done. It's hard to get stuff done and be intentional about practicing and learning. I did that program. And as I neared the end, I started applying in April 2019 and had my new job in September 2019. The market has changed a lot.
Yeah.
Every month in networking, I'm getting more information about the market. There's a ton of demand for remote jobs, but not the same amount of remote positions available. There was a time in 2021 when it was a hot market and people were hiring everywhere. You couldn't get people in jobs. It's not the same market now. We have a lot of layoffs in tech and craziness in our government right now. I mean, it's volatile. It's a lot tougher now, but networking is helpful when you're getting into a new field. People knowing you're looking, people having a conversation with you and be like, that seems like a sane person. Because sometimes you just don't know. And you develop more of an understanding of who that person is and how they fit on your team when you're talking like this.
Teachers thinking about transitioning out of the classroom will want to know how volatile the market is right now. Choosing a program to support you in your accountability, I think that's a really nice takeaway. I'm with you, Sharon. I like to be held accountable. If I say I'm going to do this, if there's not some sort of set goal or somebody alongside, it might not get done. I really appreciate that takeaway.
I think you really hit the points that were salient to me as well. I think also, Shé, you and I have felt a lot of the things that Sharon talked about, having been adjuncts in higher ed ourselves. The reasons our careers have moved in the directions they have moved, which is teaching adjacent or whatever the next step above teaching is. I think that what you described, Sharon, is a pretty accurate portrayal of at least how things can feel in the US in the at least the higher education or IEP, adult education space. Some of the things you touched on, Sharon, bleed into this question of what are the first steps ELT professionals should take if they're interested in moving into instructional design?
I mean, it would be very similar advice to what I did. I think it's good to look at job postings. And it might be instructional designer, but there are other jobs underneath the umbrella of learning and development. You can look at learning consultant, training specialist, e-learning developer, media developer. Those all are all kind of adjacent to instructional design. I would look at what is involved in those jobs. Which job description actually sounds interesting to you? I would also add technical writer is a big one. If you are a writing person and you are strong attention to detail, there's a strong need for technical writers. Look at the jobs description and think about, is that something that I'd want to do? Because if it's not, don't do it. We all have one life. Choose something you'd want to do during the day. I would also take into consideration if they have the salary posted. Sometimes they don't, but a good interview process will announce that at the beginning. It's very frustrating. If this job doesn't even pay enough to sustain my life, why am I doing it? If you find a job that looks like this is something I'm really interested in, look at your upskilling options. You can do what I did, a traditional certificate program. Don't necessarily need a degree in instructional design. If you don't have a degree, a bachelor's in instructional design might be right for you because it'll check a lot of boxes. But if you already have a master's degree, don't go back and get a second one unless it's super beneficial. Instead, use what you have and fill in those gaps. And it might be learning a software. The hot softwares in instructional design are Articulate Storyline, Articulate Rise. It's, the same company, but it's a suite of products. You might look at Camtasia, which is a video editing software. Articulate is like PowerPoint on steroids. Rise is the Articulate product that will fit a lot of components together in one long e-learning piece.
What's one teaching or instructional design tool, digital or old school, you couldn't live without?
I really think my video editing software. I use it for a lot, not just for videos, but audio recording like we're doing now. I've used it for instructional purposes. I've used it for quick videos to show a faculty member how to do something because I never really meet with them in person. I'm always remote, so I have to show them how to do something. The one I use is called Power Director by Cyberlink. It's not super well known, but all of them are changing in the same way. They're integrating more AI components. Some of them are terrible. Some of them are good, but some of them are like, oh, you really have some bugs to work out. Video is useful for showing people how to do things more quickly, but also for the human component, that human element that we want to infuse into online course design. Teachers are always saying, oh, how do I make my class more engaging to students? They need to feel like you are there, and a great way of doing that is making sure that they see you and they hear you. And so when we can get faculty to use those same tools, it does a lot for students and making them feel a sense of belonging.
Love that.
If you have basics in screen capturing, that is helpful. Did not have experience in Canvas or Blackboard, which are well-known LMSs. Instead, I had experience in Sakai. What I did to show I knew what an LMS was and how it was used was a screen capture of my course in the LMS. And then I did a voiceover talking and doing a tour of the lesson I made and why it looks like this. That highlighted my understanding of learning theory and how I structure content, understanding of assessment, motivation for learners, and feedback. All of that can be demonstrated in a quick screen capture tour of something you've created. That's what I would do. Some say you need an e-portfolio. It can be helpful for certain jobs. I didn't have one. I had links to videos I created, and that's what I got hired for. I got hired to help with video editing, then I transitioned into an ID role. I think that's all solid advice for getting started, especially from ground up.
I think that's a really nice thing to highlight. I never got around to creating a portfolio, but found some backdoor entryway into the field. That's the story of a lot of people at your networking sessions. It's not always a direct line into the field, back doors, and starting in a different role. There's so many different entry points. You brought up the different titles to see what you like, what you want to focus on. And that just, I think, goes to show that there are so many different ways to tap into your skill set as a teacher to move into instructional design if that interests you.
I want to pause here for a second, Anna, because We've had a few audience contributions this week.
That's right. We asked listeners to reflect on what skills they have as teachers that they see as transferable into other industries and professions.
Mm-hmm.
Our longtime listener and podcast guest, Yulia Karchenko, mentioned a really good one: crisis management and staying calm under pressure.
Oh my gosh. Yes. So true.
Yeah.
I mean, whether we're handling a student crisis or a last minute classroom change, maybe the internet cutting out on us in the middle of an activity, you name it, teachers are pros at keeping it cool.
Honestly, it's such an underrated skill, and it
Mm.
makes for an excellent project manager, event organizer, just general go-to person to make things work,
Yes. And Paula, English and Spanish teacher from Mendoza, Argentina, responded that communicating in a language other than her own and being herself in another language, in this case English, has transferred quite nicely into her co-founding a wine tourism company, Mendoza Wine Trails.
Amazing.
Mhm.
That's one that maybe isn't the first that comes to mind, but confidently
Mhm.
communicating in another language is no easy feat. We should
Mhm.
consider it a skill, absolutely.
Brilliant, Pau. Congrats on the success of Mendoza Wine Trails, and thank you for contributing to the conversation. It's always so exciting to hear from friends of the pod. Keep the comments coming,
Yes,
people.
please.
So, speaking of skills, what are some of the skills that within ELT transfers well into instructional design? And, you talked earlier about the soul suck that is being an adjunct. I think that there is a mindset shift that needs to happen when you move from being more of a freelancer or a part-time employee into the full-time instructional design role. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
I'll start with the skills that are definitely transferable to the field of ID or L&D. Top of list, project management. When you are teaching multiple classes, multiple learners, you are already project managing. You might not be doing it in QuickBase yet, but you are doing the skills necessary. You're thinking about, we are going to this destination and these are the milestones that I need to hit in order to get to that destination. That's all teaching. All teaching is thinking about the outcomes where the students are going, here are the things I need to do to get there. If I were doing this over again, I would lead with project management ability and show how to take something big and turn it into smaller, workable units. The other skill that I think is undervalued or teachers may not realize when they're interviewing is interpersonal skills. Your ability to communicate, especially across cultures, to have cultural competence, empathy, to be an active listener, to ask good questions, to be curious, to assume the best of people. All of these are excellent skills for working with other people. And that kind of shifts into the second part of the answer to this question is teachers are used to being that one person band. I'm going to beat the drum, hit the cymbal, do all the stuff because I can only rely on myself. I'm making my own copies, doing my own lessons, printing the stuff, I'm looking for the stuff, doing it all. We get really good at that, but also so burn out. And the switch for me when I became an ID is understanding that you are, and usually not always, but usually IDs are working on a team and they're working with graphic designers or they're working with a video editor or they're working with the subject matter expert. That's really hard to separate out that you are no longer the content expert. You are the ID and there is someone else who's in charge of the content. And that is a shift to understand that it is not going to move at this rapid lightning speed pace anymore because it's not all contained in your brain. It is contained in all these people. And your job really becomes this soft diplomacy of knowing how people communicate. Are they going to communicate best by email, by a Zoom check-in? Do I need to get on their calendar so they actually get it done? I have faculty like that. If I am not on their calendar, they are not working on it. They have forgotten about it. They see it coming up on their calendar. They're working on it. And then the check-ins become superfluous. They're like, did you do this stuff? I did the stuff because it was on my calendar. Oh, I only got halfway through the stuff. So it's understanding that you have to trust other people to do their jobs. They might not do their jobs. And you know what? In that case, the project gets pushed back. And that's life. It's different. For someone, when you come from the space of, I'm getting this done on time and deadlines and grades, And to move into it's all got to come together, but we all got to work on it. It can be hard when deadlines pass. Everyone has to think they're important for it to get done. Big takeaway is trusting that people are going to do their work. And it doesn't get done. It wasn't as important to them as it was to you.
I feel like I've been trying to control my face as you've been sharing, Sharon, because the grimace just takes over, thinking of relying on other people and like, not everyone's as competent as you are, and you have to relinquish control, right? And I think that's challenging, especially for teachers who feel they need to be on top of everything, because if they're not, no one is. So that collaborative element, I don't know that everyone thinks of that when they're thinking of transitioning into ID or L&D.
Yeah, the teaching profession, people that gravitate toward it feel like they're holding the sky up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What's going to happen if I don't hold the sky? I learned this lesson a few years into teaching when I lost a job I loved dearly. And I thought, what are they going to do without me? They're going to never be okay. They were fine.
Yeah.
They were fine. And it's heartbreaking, but it is important to learn. Everyone is replaceable. That doesn't make you less important, but it should give you the motivation that if you are not happy in the job that you're in, it's okay to walk away. Someone else will come in and do that job. And it will be hard because change is hard. But if it's the right thing for you, there are people that will support you. I'll support you. Come to my networking.
Yeah.
Love that.
You alluded to this earlier that since you moved into the field of instructional design, things have changed. We've had the pandemic, changes in the tech industry. Could you give us a sense, paint some broad strokes of what the industry is, first of all, right? What are the different outlets for instructional design? What kinds of industries hire instructional designers and how that field is evolving?
Anywhere where there is an HR department, any company of any notable size is going to have instructional designers because they need people to create the training materials that they use to train their employees. It could be industry. I had somebody on who was creating aircraft manuals and all the trainings for people who are putting planes together for the specific manufacturer. She didn't know anything about aircraft parts, but worked with subject matter experts who did. She had that competence to be able to communicate and translate what they were saying into words that workers would understand. That's a skill. Industry, finance, insurance, hire IDs, tech, but depending on if you want to get into that, it can be volatile. Government hires IDs, as far as I know right now. Who knows? But I think if someone is trying to figure out which industry to go into, I would start with what kind of money do you want to make? If you are interested in making a high salary, finance is going to pay the most. It may not be remote. You might have to move to the job, but they're going to pay the most because they make the most money. Just about every industry has IDs because everyone has a need to educate employees. Employees are going to need continuing education until they retire. Degree, a bachelor's or a master's doesn't do it. I mean, I graduated with my bachelor's degree in 2004. Think of how many jobs exist now. They could never have imagined. Social media marketing, that's huge now. And that didn't exist. There's always going to be a need for people to continue learning and be trained in jobs.
Well, and I also want to point out you work in the higher ed side of ID. I know that's another large part of the ID field, people who support faculty in universities. But if you're considering what kind of money you want to make, that's probably a big decision point as well, whether you're going into high profile fields or more of a higher ed side of things.
There's a big range between salaries for IDs, and higher ed IDs are closer to the low end, but I still make more than I did when I was teaching, which I think is absurd because I feel so less stressed than I did when I was working, doing this 4 or 5 course load. I love my job. I love the people I work with. I love my supervisors. I love the community college that I work for because the mission is so aligned with my own personal values. And I think that even though I am not making as much money as I could if I had the job in finance, I find the work personally gratifying. And the older I get, the more important that is to me. I'm 43 years old and I'll live another 20, 30 years, hopefully. What do I want to do with those years? I want to do things that are helpful to the world with the skills and talents I have. It is important that I have money to sustain my life and the lives of my kids, but there's only so much money we need.
Having a more peaceful life is a draw. I'm feeling inspired from this conversation. And I think that considering your values, what you want your life to look like, what you want your day to day to look like, what kinds of things are you working on? These are all really important considerations. There's more to consider than just finances, right?
Yeah. Well, and also not everybody wants to learn about subject matter experts' area of expertise in the process, right? It depends. Do I want to learn about aircraft or HR policy? I mean, as you said, there's a wide range. So considering what you're open and interested in learning about as part of the process of building a positive, productive learning experience, that's important.
I've been given some fun projects because I don't know why, but on my team, people are a little less enthusiastic to take on a science course. I'll be like, I'm working on the introduction to college physics, on revising that. And I'm relearning my physics doing this class again. I'm like, air pressure. This is fun.
Thought about that in a while.
Yeah, the thermodynamics. If I can't understand it, how are these students going to understand it? I look at her content in the previous course. It's really well written. She's got good examples that are relatable and people can understand. It's just not super engaging. And there's not a lot of checks with the learner to make sure that they're understanding what's going on. It's making sure what she's written already is put in a format that is going to keep a learner motivated to stay on the page and continue through the content.
Supporting with those learning principles.
It's all grounded in pedagogy, right?
People are coming from all kinds of fields to learning and development. And it's all because of our love for learning and curiosity. E-learning departments in higher education are situated closely with like their teaching and learning center, where faculty professional development is happening. And that's because we all share this love for learner-centered pedagogy, doing what is right for the learner. If it's not right for the learner, it's not effective online education.
I'm learning a lot today. Sharon, you've already sort of given some ideas about this, but are there any things you wish you had known before you transitioned into ID?
I wish I had valued what I was coming into the discipline with more. I think a lot of us have this in new fields as the imposter syndrome, like, oh, they're going to find out I don't know anything. I barely know all this stuff. But the background that I brought into the job was so valued. My experience with international students, teaching English, having traveled to other countries and being familiar with other cultures, all of that was very much valued by my colleagues. They never saw it as a liability or, oh, she's just a teacher. Like they don't think that. So I wish I had given myself the grace that I needed at that, because I was really hard on myself. Oh, I can't believe that interview. Oh, I said this thing. And now they think I'm an idiot. And if an interview didn't go well and they did think you were an idiot, you don't belong in that job anyway. I mean, really,
right.
that
Wants to work with them.
And why would you want to work with someone who's having those thoughts about you? You want to be in a job where you have really good conversations and there's humor and interest, and if you're getting that vibe in an interview, that's a place where you want to belong. As hard as it is to hear, I do think that there is value in trusting the interview process. If they're a terrible employer, they will reveal that in those interviews. If they're a great one, they'll reveal that too.
I think people interviewing for any job tend to forget that any interview is two-way. You're also interviewing them and deciding, is this actually a path? Not everyone has the privilege of being choosy when they are interviewing, unfortunately. But it is worth mentioning.
Absolutely.
I think all I would add is just another plug for people who are deciding that they want to transition into something else. It's hard, but don't give up. If this is something you really want to do, it will happen. I have been watching people transition into other fields over the last 4.5 years. Every now and then, a participant comes back and they say, "I got a job." Sometimes they're even guest speakers. It really does happen, and it will happen for you too. And I welcome you to join our idea networking sessions. Love to chat with you more and give you that boost of confidence and motivation.
Such a wonderful conversation. Thanks so much for joining us, Sharon.
Yes. I definitely felt energized by this conversation. It can be scary to think about moving into another field or even a different area of your current field, so I appreciate the chance to reflect on the possibilities.
Listeners, reflect with us. How has teaching prepared you for life outside of the classroom, whether in a new role or just in life more generally?
I love that, Anna. Great idea. We don't even have to go as far as to question transferable skills for work, per se, but how our teacher skills show up in everyday tasks and interactions. I think whether you're looking to make a change or not, this is a great reflective prompt for all of us.
You can find additional information about the idea networking sessions in our show notes, listeners, including how to get involved, along with recommendations for additional reading and listening.
Yes, and that includes episode 60, From Teaching to Materials Writing, with Ben Buchwald and Tara Benwell, our friends from Ellie. And Anna, you're writing a blog post about your own experience transitioning into L&D to accompany this episode, aren't you?
Yeah, the pressure's on. Yeah, I guess we're
I've said it now.
advertising that. Okay, look out for that blog post.
Mhm.
I'll share about what my journey looked like a few years ago, and my path was pretty different from what Sharon shared during our conversation, so you'll get a couple more tidbits.
Awesome. Do you like these career conversations, listeners? If so, are there other professions or teaching adjacent roles that you're considering that you think we should do an episode on? Let us know. We're here to serve your interests and needs.
If you found this episode helpful or inspiring, please share it with a friend or colleague, or leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts.
And if you're feeling generous, you can even support the show by buying us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/thinkaloudpod.
Thanks so much for joining us on the Teacher Think Aloud podcast. Until next time, friends, happy teaching.
And happy reflecting.